subscribe to our YouTube channel, Joy Learning TV.
Hello, my lovely viewers. I am on your screens once again. And what can I say than to welcome you to Joy Learning channel? And of course, I am smiling because people kept, coming into my inbox and they were asking, when are we going to have the second part of the story? You remember Papalo and the mosquitoes? Do you remember that story? Yes. So I dealt with the part 1, and then because of the questions, I just had to come with the part 2 because people are so eager. Okay. So we are definitely going to do comprehension today. And then we are going to talk about Papalo and the mosquitoes, the second part of it. Okay. And my name, as usual, is Jacquel Samoa, but you can popularly call me Auntie Jackie. So let's strictly go to business. And then I am very sure you have your books ready, to enjoy the story. Okay. So these are our lesson objectives. And then by the end of the lesson, the learner will be able to identify the basic steps in reading comprehension passages. Okay, anytime we are reading or dealing with comprehension, I make sure I go through the reading steps with you, the basic steps with you. Okay, now the second one, we should be able to read fluently on your own to build confidence. And then the third one, we are to answer questions based on the particular passage being read. Okay, and in this case, we are reading Papalo and the mosquitoes. Okay. Now, my relevance of the previous knowledge, we have learners read every day. Yes, that I know you do, because I keep telling you that you cannot live on this earth without reading. Now, junior graphics, we have storybooks, we have magazines, and even the billboards. When you're in the cars going to school, when you're in daddy's car or mommy's car going to school, you see lots and lots of billboards, and I think you do read them. I mean, even to yourselves, and then sometimes very, very loudly. Now, the basic steps in reading, we have the introduction. Let me explain further. So the introduction gives a brief outline of what to expect. Then we have the body, that is also, it talks about what the passage is all about. And then finally, the conclusion, and that is the ending of the passage. Now, again, in reading, we have shallow reading or glancing through. Okay, glancing through, you glance through it, doesn't mean that you just go and glance through like this. No, you read through, but you don't really you don't put so much attention into that first reading. Secondly, we have the main reading, which has to do with what the reader talking about, or has to do with the reader taking note of exactly what the passage is talking about. Now, the reader takes note of the questions to be answered in the passage, and so tries to link both, that is the reading and the understanding of the passage. Again, in reading, the underlined words or the key words must be pronounced and understood well. Now, when answering comprehension questions, the answers must be straightforward and simple. Example, who in the story didn't know mosquitoes were very tiny insects? And then the answer here, I have Allotey. Okay, the answers for comprehension questions should be very, very simple and straightforward. You don't need to repeat the question before giving the answers. They waste time. Okay, so an example, who in the story didn't know mosquitoes were very tiny insects? Then my answer here, we have Papalo. Now, to the story again, to the second part of the story, and people, my students or my learners, let me say, kept asking questions. Auntie Jackie, when are we going to have the second part of the story? Because we enjoyed the first one. Now, this is it, okay? So we are going to read the following passage carefully, and then we are going to answer the questions like we used to do. Right, so I read. Now, Papalo and the Mosquitoes, part 2. That is how I have the name I have given it, okay? Now, on the 4th day, Papalo felt very weak and uneasy in the morning. Now, in the afternoon, he felt very cold and began to shiver all over. The next moment, he became hot and began to sweat. Then he felt cold again. His wife brought him his favorite food, kenke and fish, but he could not eat, but he could eat very little. He had lost appetite and the food tasted bitter in his mouth. A few minutes later, he began to vomit. His head ached severely and he could neither stand nor walk. By sunset, it had become obvious that Papalo had caught malaria. Oh my goodness. Now, in the meantime, the chief was waiting for him in the palace. He wanted to hear about Papalo's hunts the previous night. He waited and waited, but Papalo failed to show up. There was a problem. Now, let's go on. In the evening, the chief sent someone to Papalo's house to find out what was wrong. The news he brought was that Papalo was down with malaria. The chief wondered how it happened. Papalo told him that the mosquitoes had not been coming to his house. However, he told Papalo's wife to send him to the hospital. Now, at the hospital, the doctor said Papalo's wife... At the hospital, the doctor asked Papalo's wife whether people did the clean up as the health inspectors had directed. You remember in the first part of the story, we were told that the health workers came to the village and told them to have a cleanup exercise. Yes, and instead of Papalo taking part or being part of the cleanup, he decided to go look for gun to buy to kill the mosquitoes. So at the hospital, the doctor asked Papalo's wife whether the people did the cleanup as the health inspectors had directed. Which, of course, yes, I know they did. Yes, they did, she replied. That was Papalo's wife. But my husband refused to do it. That was the wife of Papalo. Why? The doctor asked, showing surprise on his face. So he goes like, why? So Papalo turned slowly on the bed and faced him. What was he going to do? Now let's find out. I wonder what really causes malaria, he said. In the past few days, I have been hunting in the bush behind my house for these mosquitoes. That was Papalo. Now every night, I sit there with my gun till daybreak. I've never seen any animal enter my house. I only feel itchy all over my body. Yet, I have malaria. How did it happen then? The doctor laughed. So let me laugh. The doctor laughed because it's obvious that Papalo was so ignorant. Okay, so he had no idea that even the itching he was feeling over his body was the fact that he was being bitten by mosquitoes. That was ignorance. So his mind was, he's always ready to face the mosquitoes with his gun so he can kill them, and so on and so forth. So the doctor laughed, okay, because he was surprised. Now, Papalo, you were indeed a funny man. So who do you think said that to Papalo? Definitely the doctor. Mosquitoes are not big animals that one could shoot with a gun. They are only tiny insects, far smaller than house flies. They only suck blood with their long, tiny mouths and in the process give you the malaria parasites. At that point, Papalo became more interested. Okay, so let's say that he's now beginning to understand what brings about malaria. So you mean I can't shoot and kill the mosquitoes? How can tiny insects cause such a deadly disease? He asked the doctor. Yes, the doctor replied, they are very small but very, very harmful. You cannot shoot and kill them. They are too small to be seen sometimes unless you watch closely. They are too small to be seen sometimes unless you watch very closely. And really, even when a mosquito comes to stand on your body, sometimes you don't even feel it until you feel that. You don't even see it until you feel some itch there. Oh, how I wish I knew, Papalo said. So you see, all this while he was just ignorant. This phrase or this sentence or line should tell us that he was ignorant. Oh, how I wish I knew, Papalo said. You see, the doctor continued. The mosquitoes breed mostly in gutters and in bushes. This is an education. Let's listen very well. Where there is stagnant water. That was why the health inspectors advised you to weed the bushes and throw away cans and tins that contained dirty water. Allotey nodded. Then he asked, so how can I see mosquito? What do it look like? Now, I have this part of the story, the part one of the story. What do you see here in your own small way? What do you see here? Tell me what you see here. Is the place clean? What do you see there? For me, I see dirt all over the floor. I see, the bins, they are kind of full up and the dirts are seen all over the floor. Is this how we are supposed to keep our homes clean? Is this how we are supposed to keep our homes or our environment? When we do this, what do you think will be happening to us? These are questions you need to answer yourselves, okay? Right, I continue. Now, wait a minute, said one of the nurses who was standing and listening to the conversation. That was kind of eavesdrop, you know. So she went to one of the rooms and came back holding a small book. She opened it and showed a picture to Allotey. It was a picture of a mosquito sucking the blood of a sleeping baby. That is what mosquitoes look like, she said. Mosquitoes, sucking the blood of a sleeping baby. You can imagine. Thank you very much, nurse. Luckily, Allotey was discharged the same day. Now, in the night, he went behind his house and sat on a stone, and as usual, as he did usually. Now, a while later, he began to feel itchy on his legs. He quickly threw a light there. So this time round, because of the kind of education the doctor and the nurse gave him, he was a bit, should I say, not too naive anymore. She was a bit careful, and so was quite ready to really, what mosquitoes do, okay? So he quickly threw a light there. Now, let's see. Now, look at this picture. And now in the passage, it's saying that a mosquito seen on the sleeping baby. I don't know, but I got this picture to show you how mosquitoes bite. So there's a mosquito on somebody's, whether the hand or the leg or whatever, any part of the body, okay? And this is how it looks like. Very, very harmful animals, very harmful insects, and they can cause, give the malaria parasites. Look at another picture. Another picture here. You see these mosquitoes all over. And after this, what happens to you? Straight up, you're going to get malaria. Okay? Good. Another, so let's say that, when Allotey began to feel itchy on the legs, this is what he had. He got some, some swells down there. Okay? So when mosquito bites us, this is what happens to us hands. Okay? Now, oh my God, I continue. Oh my God, Allotey screamed. A swarm of mosquitoes. He counted them. I don't even know. I don't even think he can count them because they keep moving. Okay, so 2, 3, 4. He just wouldn't be able to count them. Then, with all his strength, he swatted them. Then, looking at his hand, he saw fresh blood in his palm. Allotey quickly ran home. Now he is feeling what was going on. Okay, the ignorance kind of is going because he's been educated, kind of, sort of by the doctor and the nurse. So he ran home. Why did he run home? Because of he realized that he was being bitten by the mosquitoes. Now, early the next morning, he sharpened his cutlass and weeded the bush. Transformation. Then he cleaned the environment just as the others had done. Is that not interesting? Must we wait, to fall into trouble before we do the right thing? Sometimes when we don't know, we need to listen. Okay, Allotey, I know, was ignorant. He didn't have any idea on what was happening. when the health inspectors came and then spoke about the, clean environment, reading the place and all that, he should have listened instead of going to buy a gun and then wanting to kill these mosquitoes. So until he was educated, he didn't know what was going on. Okay, so he became kind of cautious and then was ready to, follow. Now, when people asked him why he could not wait till he completely recovered, remember he was sick and he was admitted and then finally discharged. Then he came out, sat at the back of his house again, and then he was bitten by the mosquitoes. And then he saw, blood in the palm. Then he ran home. Then he began to think that, yes, this is what they are talking about. So the following day, he decided to read, and then, clear the bushes and then empty the cans and all that. Then people were wondering that why won't he wait till he's, he has recovered or he's better? He replied, no, I don't want these wicked insects to finish me. From that day, Papalo never allowed bush to grow behind his house again. That was good. That was good. So you see another picture here. I have two pictures actually. One depicting or showing very dirty environment and the other one showing very clean environments. The one on our right side, okay, that's how we need to keep our environment. I respect whatever, whether you have a small place, whether you have whatever. I don't want to have any excuse. You need to always keep your environment clean. On the left side, you can see thrush, a whole lot of things on the floor. And these are the things that brings mosquitoes. All right, so let's try to avoid these things, okay? Right. So that was the story. Those who were so eager to listen to the end of the story, now we have heard the story and we know what Papalo had to go through. The education he had at the hospital with the doctor and the nurse and how he kind of transformed. All right. Even from the hospital, he really wanted to see what mosquitoes can do to him. And they really showed him Pepe. All right. When he went to sit at the back of his house again, wanting to see what mosquitoes would do. And they gave it to him. Mosquitoes are not human beings that can listen or can hear. They do what they have to do, especially when there is death, especially when the place is untidy and all that. Okay. So that was the story of Papalo. I will go over, but I need us to answer these questions. And then, of course, some other assignments I'll give you. And then we can go back to the story, okay? I hope you enjoyed the story. Get ready whilst we answer these questions. And then try answering them on your own as well. Very well. Now, answer the following questions. Number 1, why couldn't Papalo eat his favorite food that day? Remember, what was his favorite food? Kinky and fish. As I stand here, I really want to go eat kinky and fish. Okay, that was his favorite food. But unfortunately, he was not able to eat that food that day. Why? Who can tell me? I have my answer here, So why couldn't Papalo eat his favorite food that day? Answer, he had lost appetite and the food tasted bitter in his mouth. Symptoms of malaria. Sometimes you feel like you don't feel like eating, the mouth becomes so sour. Even when you're eating, you don't feel the food, you don't feel the taste of the food and all that. They are all symptoms of malaria. So Papalo had lost appetite and the food tasted so bitter in his mouth. Right. Why did the chief send someone to Papalo's house? Why? I wish I can cover my answers for you to answer for me, but I know my learners are very sharp. And so you know the answers already. So why did the chief send someone to Papalo's house? Now the answer is the chief was expecting to hear of his previous hunt, but he never showed up. Remember in the first part of the story, he used to go to the chief to tell him about what happened in the night. So the chief was ready or was eager waiting for him to listen to what he had to say, about his previous hunt. Number 3, Papalo did not go to the palace that morning because he was 1, hunting for mosquitoes, 2, sent to the hospital, 3, tidying up his environment, 4, suffering from malaria. I think that is my answer. Papalo did not go to the palace that morning because he was suffering from malaria. All the answers above. Hunting for mosquitoes, no. Sent to the hospital. I think he was not sent to the hospital before then. Okay, it was after the chief had sent somebody there. That was when the chief asked the wife to send him to the hospital. So, tidying up his environment, no. Papalo had no time for that. He would rather go buy a gun to shoot mosquitoes. So Papalo did not go to the palace that morning because he was suffering from malaria. And we all got to know how he was feeling that morning. He was vomiting, he was feeling feverish. He didn't eat his food and all that. Those are the symptoms of malaria. So if you know you are going through all these things, then please tell mommy or tell daddy to check on your malaria status. All right. Number 4, who sent Papalo to the hospital? Of course, obviously, definitely, his wife sent him to the hospital. A good wife, what can she do? Number 5, Papalo turned slowly on the bed to dash. So 1, to see a picture of a mosquito. 2, to talk to the doctor. 3, to ask his wife a question. And 4, to thank the nurse. You remember when the doctor was talking to Papalo, he turned slowly. Honestly, in the story, I thought he was going to insult the doctor or he was going to fight him, because it was like he turned slowly. And I was not comfortable with that particular phrase. But he didn't tend to fight. He didn't tend to insult. He only turned to talk to the doctor. And I believe that was why he understood. Let me say, that was how he got over, he being naive. Okay. He got to know lots and lots of things, when he spoke with the doctor. It is good to ask questions. Okay. It is good to ask questions because there are a lot of things we don't know. And if you don't ask the questions, you will never know. In this case, Papalo asked questions and he got the right answers. Then he changed his ways. Okay. Now, number 6, according to the doctor, mosquitoes are dash houseflies. So I have smaller than houseflies. I have as big as houseflies. I have a little bigger than houseflies. And then I have not at all like housefly. And I believe that in the story, we got to know that mosquitoes are smaller than houseflies. So my answer here, smaller than houseflies. Number 7, I think I left these 2 for you to answer. Auntie Jackie has done well by answering the first 6 questions for you. So you have no cause to complain at all. So number 7, where and when did Papalo see a real mosquito for the first time? These are 2 questions in one. Where and when did Papalo see a real mosquito for the first time? You see, he was feeling the bites almost all the time, but he had not seen a real mosquito with his own naked eyes before. Okay, until he was educated. So where and when did Papalo see a real mosquito for the first time? Please, this is your question. So write it down and kindly answer and send them to Auntie Jackie on Jacqueline Clark Facebook account, Instagram account, and I'll surely and gladly mark them for you. The 8th question is for you as well. So I read, Papalo weeded the bush and cleaned the environment because A, he had seen mosquitoes. B, he wanted to get rid of the mosquitoes. C, the health inspectors had asked him to. And then D, he had malaria. So which one are you going to choose? Papalo weeded the bush and cleaned the environment because which of these answers would you choose? He had seen mosquitoes. He wanted to get rid of the mosquitoes. The health inspectors had asked him to, and then he had malaria. Which one will be your answer? I go on now. When it comes to the, finding the meaning of the following words, remember, in every comprehension passage, we have words that are underlined. Let me say the key words. And most of the time we find, the ones that, the words or the phrases that will suit, the underlined words. Some I have done for you and I left the rest for you to do. So that is your assignment. But let's go through this. These we found in the passage. So we have uneasy. You remember, Papalo felt uneasy. So another word for uneasy was uncomfortable. I chose uncomfortable. Then we also realized that obvious. It was obvious that he didn't know he even had malaria. So another word that I could replace obvious with was clear. Clear. We will still go back to the passage again before I end the lesson. So just take note of these. Write them down very, very fast. Then when you go back, you can just, alongside and we move it on. Now, shiver. Then we have shake. I think in the passage, Papalo was shivering. So if somebody's shivering, what is it? As I stand here, I'm shivering. What is the meaning of that? And I wrote shake. And then I have here harmful. Something is very, very harmful. And then I have here dangerous. Now look at this and write these very, very fast because you're going to answer them. Okay? Find the meaning of the following words and use 3 of them to make your own sentences. This is your only assignments. And the other one, I think the 7th and the 8th questions. All right? So you are going to find the meaning of the following words. So we have vomit. We have parasites. We have sorted. We have discharged. And then we have stagnant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. And then you are going to use 3 of them to make your own beautiful sentences for me. Okay? So we have vomit. We have parasite. We have sorted. We have discharged. And then we have stagnant. Find the meaning of these words and then use 3. You can choose any 3 you want. And then you are going to form sentences with the words for me. Okay? So that is it. But I would want us to go back to the story again and read. And then let me tell you a few things. Things to do, things not to do. Just to avoid malaria or mosquitoes. Right. So this is the beginning of the story. Let me read once more before I end the story with you. All right? Now, on the 4th day, Papalo felt very weak and uneasy in the morning. So uneasy underlined. Now, in the afternoon, he felt very cold and began to shiver all over. Shiver underlined. I think I asked you that question to give me another word, yeah? Or I think I gave it, yeah. Now, the next moment, he became hot and began to sweat. These are all symptoms of malaria. Sometimes you feel like you're hot. Sometimes you feel like you're cold. And then you shiver, you become very uncomfortable and all that, okay? Then he felt cold again. Somebody who was sweating now is very cold. Now his wife brought him his favorite food, kenke and fish, but he could eat very little. He had lost appetite and the food tasted bitter in his mouth. A few minutes later, he began to vomit. Vomit underlined. I think you have that question to answer, so take note. What other word can you replace vomit with? A few minutes later, he began to vomit. Now his head ached severely and he could neither stand nor walk. By sunset, it had become obvious that Papalo had caught malaria. I think the word obvious was given to you. So take note. In the meantime, the chief was waiting for him in the palace. He wanted to hear about Papalo's hunt the previous night. He waited and waited, but Papalo failed to show up. In the evening, the chief sent someone to Papalo's house to find out what was wrong. The news he brought was that Papalo was down with malaria. The chief wondered how it happened. Papalo told him that the mosquitoes had not been coming to his house. However, he told Papalo's wife to send him to the hospital. Now, at the hospital, the doctor asked Papalo's wife whether the people did the cleanup as the health inspectors had directed. Yes, they did, she replied, but my husband refused to do it. Why? The doctor asked, showing surprise on his face. Papalo turned slowly on the bed and faced him. This is where I was scared. I thought he was going to fight him. I thought he was going to insult him. But let's see what happened. I wonder what really causes malaria, he said. That was Papalo. In the past few days, I have been hunting in the bush behind my house for these mosquitoes. Every night, I sit there with my gun till daybreak. I've never seen any animal enter my house. I only feel itchy all over my body. Yet, I have malaria. How did it happen then? The doctor laughed. Allotey, you are indeed a funny man, the doctor said. Mosquitoes are not big animals that one could shoot with a gun. They are only insects, tiny insects, far smaller than house flies. They only suck blood with their long, tiny mouths, and in the process give you the malaria parasites. Parasites, I think another word I gave you, so kindly take note and give me the correct word that can replace this. Now, at this point, Allotey became more interested. So, you mean I can't shoot and kill the mosquitoes? How can tiny insects cause such a deadly disease? He asked the doctor. Yes, the doctor replied, they are small but very harmful. I think I gave you this word too, harmful. So take note and give me the good, correct answer that will replace that word. You cannot shoot and kill them. They are too small to be seen sometimes unless you watch closely. Oh, how I wish I knew, Allotey said. You see, the doctor continued, the mosquitoes breed mostly in gutters and in bushes where there is stagnant water. I think I gave you that word too, stagnant. So take note and give me a very correct word that can replace stagnant. That was why the health inspectors advised you to weed the bushes and throw away cans and tins that contained dirty water. Allotey nodded. Then he asked, so how can I see mosquito? What do they look like? Then I remember I spoke about this dirty environment, advising you not to do that. Make sure you keep your environment always clean, please. Wait a minute, said one of the nurses who was standing and listening to the conversation. She went to one of the rooms and came back holding a small book. She opened it and showed a picture to Allotey. It was a picture of a mosquito sucking the blood of a sleeping baby. This is what mosquitoes look like, she said. Thank you very much, nurse. Luckily, Allotey was discharged the same day. In the night, he went behind his house and sat on a stone as he usually did. A while later, he began to feel itchy on his legs. He quickly threw a light there. So I showed you the mosquito, standing on somebody and really biting the person. Okay, giving malaria parasites. Okay, right. And there's another picture, somebody's hands with mosquitoes all over. After this straight, you're going to get malaria and it's deadly. Okay, so let's try and avoid things that will, bring all these ones. And this is how I should say Allotey felt after being, bitten by the mosquitoes. He felt so itchy, that was that bad, and he got swells all over the body. Okay. Now, oh my God, Allotey screamed. A swarm of mosquitoes. He counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then with all his strength, he swatted them. I think that is another word you need to look for, in the sentence. He swatted them. What's the meaning of swatted? Then looking at his hand, he saw fresh blood in his palm. Allotey quickly ran home. Now he got it. Early the next morning, he sharpened his cutlass and weeded the bush. Then he cleaned the environment just as the Jhs had done. You see the mosquitoes there? When people asked him why he could not wait till he completely recovered, he replied, no, I don't want these wicked insects to finish me. From that day, Allotey never allowed bush to grow behind his house again. And that is the end of my story. That is the end of my story, Allotey and the mosquitoes. And so I believe and I hope that nobody's going to ask me questions as to, Auntie Jackie, when are you bringing the ending part of the story? This is it. Okay. And I have explained and have taught you what to do in keeping your environment clean. I have showed you what not to do, things you need not do, things you need to do, in order to stay away from malaria. Okay. And then we answered these questions, which I know you did with me. And then I give you some few exercises. That is number 7 and number 8. So I read them again to you. Where and when did Allotey see a real mosquito for the first time? I'm saying that you are going to answer that question. So I would want to believe that you have written them down. And then number 8, Allotey weeded the bush and cleaned the environment because you are going to choose one answer from these, Lord. He had seen mosquitoes, because he wanted to get rid of the mosquitoes, because the inspectors had asked him to, and then because he had malaria. Which of these answers will suit that question? And then I explained this. I give my other meanings of those words. And then I give you this one as an assignment. Number 2, you are going to find the following meanings, to these words. And then after that, you are going to use 3 of them to form sentences for me. So I have vomit, I have parasites, I have swatted, I have discharged, and then I have stagnant. So you're going to find, the meaning of the following words and use 3 to form sentences for me. All right, so I guess we have enjoyed ourselves, and I just can't wait to, mark your exercises like we do always. And like I keep saying, I am very, very proud of you, because you make me feel like, yes, I'm imparting knowledge, okay? And this is a very, very good opportunity for you to learn, a very good platform for you to learn. Of course, we say thank you to Joy Learning. It's not easy, but it's been very, very worth it. And so I enjoy reading or marking your assignments, and I'm very, very, very proud of you. Thank you for watching, and I'm sure that I'm going to see you again next week, God willing. But before then, be good and keep reading. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Joy Learning TV.